Saturn rules housing and banks. Saturn has been in Aquarius for the last 2.5 years, and banks have been on a tear. They've been riled up and all over the place. And housing also. Within a matter of, 2 weeks of Saturn entering weakened Pisces, we had 2 banks fail.
Astrology Hub's biggest event of the season is starting tomorrow. I'm Sam Reynolds, one of the 12 panelists speaking at the game-changing transit event. You'll learn all about the pivotal astrological moments in life and in the world we share. I'm really looking forward to talking about Saturn in Pisces, so I hope to see you there. Get the details at astrologyhub.com/game-changing.
Okay, so today we're going to be discussing financial transits and how they can impact the world and your own chart. But we're also going to be covering the different types of financial personalities and help you decide or help you figure out which one you fall under. But one of the things that we keep hearing from you guys is about the whole banking situation that's going on right now. So you don't have to worry. We heard your questions and we definitely will cover them. We'll just save them to the very end because there's a lot of context that we have to cover before we can really understand what all of this means. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Joe G. I'm Astrology Hub's podcast producer, and I'm also an astrologer over at Astrology Hub's Astrologer Connect platform. And today I have with me an academy teacher, Mitch Scott Lewis, who's currently teaching the quarterly financial webinar series over here at Astrology Hub. So with that said, hi, Mitch. How are you doing?
Hi, Joe. Good. Almost spring. Thank God.
It is almost spring. Thank God. I'm out here in Canada. The snow is starting to melt and it's very exciting.
Much as I would love to go to Canada, I don't think I could move there. Bahamas. Bahamas is nice. I like to play the piano in a hotel on the beach for the rest of my life.
Nice. That'd be awesome. So, a place that I wanted to start is just to talk about the people first before we get into like the really big issues and the things going on. I just wanted to address something that we talked about previously, this idea of like the different financial archetypes or like the financial personality types and how people can find themselves in these different spots. And after we do that, we'll take a step into like the bigger world events. How does that sound? Yeah.
Well, in the second webinar, which of course you know because you showed it, I looked at a number of issues in terms of the best way for a person to approach their finances. We looked at the charts and the houses and which houses represent money in the chart and where your strengths and weaknesses are. I even explained that when I was on the floor of the Mercantile Exchange, I had a very thriving astrology business because traders wanted to know how they can make more money, pretty much,
Right.
And I would look at their charts and see the difference in their houses. And some of them were day trading and they shouldn't have been. They should be position trading. Others were position trading and they may have done better with short term. So we get into all of that in the webinar in more depth than we're going to today. But people have specific personalities or archetypes, as you call it. And based on the personality, it will have a great deal to do with how they view their security, their finances, their future. What is it that you want? If you're going to go into trading, what is it that you want? Do you want to become immensely wealthy, which is in a capitalist society, not an evil thing?
Mm-hmm.
Do you just want to take care of your family? Do you have great love of music or painting or dance or whatever it is, and you want to finance it? So the we are, but who we are.
Right.
The clearer we can approach the financial issues in our lives.
Right. So would you say that it's less about the financial like personality type and more about like your actual personality type, like the things that you like and gravitate towards will also dictate how you might approach finances? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I don't really differentiate. In other words, you have a personality, Joe. I have a personality. Everybody does. How we approach everything is based on our personality. How do you approach relationships? Do you like to work 5 days a week? Would you prefer to sit home and then work from your own computer? How do you approach, well, virtually everything? And finance is separate from that. It's the same way that I try and explain when I'm teaching astrology. Astrology is not separate from life. You don't separate, here's astrology and here's your life. No, they're integrated. And how we use the tool of astrology helps us, of course, as you know, in so many different ways, so many parts of our lives. Well, finance is not different than that either. If you are a conservative person, you will tend to trade in a conservative way. In the webinar, I made I don't want to say prediction because I don't want to predict stocks per se, but I pointed out through the charts that Uber looked like it was about to make a good move. And I bought it. And I bought it around 24, 25, and it ran up to 35. It's almost a 50% rise in a matter of weeks. I told some of my clients and friends about it. One of them, who was a Capricorn, tends to be a little bit more conservative. Not that all Capricorns are, but so I said to him when it hit about 35, I said, "He's still holding Uber?" He said, "No, I took my profit." That's the way he thinks of things. We'll take a profit and go on to the next. Take a profit and move on. Other people, I can't get them to get out of a trade, even when there's a fortune in it. That's their personality.
Right.
So when you can define that clearly, you can prevent errors. If you know the person has a hard time starting and stopping, there are people who will not start a relationship, but once they get into it, they can't get out of it.
Right.
There are people who do the same thing trading. Oh, I don't know. Should I buy this stock? Should I buy it? Well, all right, Mitch, I'm going to take a chance. And they push the button, they buy it. Then the stock runs up and they make, a lot of money. And I said, look, it's time to get out. Oh, I think it's going to go higher. Well, it might, but you could lose it all. And they won't get out. So those are the people that I suggest should not trade for themselves.
Right. And what about for the people who are not really interested in trading? Would you say that that's like a personality type on its own, or are there different avenues that might be affected by that?
Look, it's all finances. Let's say you need a new car and you have a choice between buying a Tesla or buying a Ford. Let's say we're looking at electric vehicles or whatever it is. The Tesla is going to cost you a lot more money. Some people I know buy Cadillacs because they love the name. And there happen to be wonderful cars. They're amazing, but they're a fortune. Well, there are personality types who won't spend money on expensive paper towels, but they'll go out and buy a $70,000 car.
Right.
And those are traits that work to our advantage if we understand, and at times to our disadvantage if we're not that self-aware. Now, personally, I enjoy, I like to gamble. I go to the casinos once in a while, or I'll go to a racetrack or whatever it might be. I just enjoy the thrill. I never take my rent money. Not the way I am. It's the same thing with drinking or anything else. I like to drink wine, so I don't drink it every day. Right. When it's a special occasion, I can have whatever I want because I know I'm not doing it every day. That's me. But it took me a lifetime to learn who I am. Through trial and error. When it comes to finances, it's the same thing. I have money in retirement funds. I hold on to stocks like AT&T that pay a nice big dividend because I like the money coming in every quarter. Then I have my TD Ameritrade accounts that are open all day, a E-Trade account, and I stand there and I play. I push buttons, I buy, I sell, I make, I lose. All I care about is by the end of the quarter, have I made money? Not each individual trade. And that's something that takes a lot of self-awareness. And of course, knowing your astrology chart gives you that self-awareness.
Right.
If you learn how to read it properly. That's one of the reasons why in the second quarterly webinar that you and I just did, I spent a bit of time going over the houses, the individual charts, and I looked at charts of, I guess, about 7 or 8 famous wealthy people. We looked at J.P. Morgan's chart, we looked at Ford's chart, Warren Buffett, and a couple of the failures like Bernie Madoff and Bankman from the collapse of the crypto. And in that way, what I was trying to do was give an indication of what you look for in your own chart. Now, I do this for a lot of my clients. Of course, they'll come to me and we'll have a full reading, hour and a half or so. And we'll go over their entire chart and then I will give them ideas. I just had a session yesterday from a financial guy who wanted to know what's the best way for me to handle the markets, especially now because they're so volatile.
Great.
So, of course, I talked to him about the volatility itself, about the banking stuff, which you and I'll get into in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked about his chart, where his strengths lie, where his challenges are. And by doing that, I'm giving the client a roadmap and a way to look at how they approach all of the markets.
Right. So I think that takes me to a question, actually. So would you say that there are many financial personality types as there are like signs in the zodiac? Would you, if you were to narrow it down to like a number, would you say there's like 12 different styles, or would you say there's more, there's less?
So pretty much. Now, when you're talking about financial, that doesn't necessarily mean the stock markets.
Mm-hmm.
It might mean how you approach everything in your life, like we talked. Do you upgrade your computer and your cell phone every 2 years, or do you kind of let it? And that's part of the personality too. So I guess if you divide up, look, remember, we are complicated. I personally believe in reincarnation. I think we've been here many times before. Very difficult to screw things up so much in one lifetime. So I think we've done it. And when I read a chart, I read the complexities. Person may be a Gemini, which has a certain kind of personality, but the moon might be in Taurus, completely different.
Right.
And the Mars might be conjunct Uranus, which makes them a little more explosive or whatever it is. And you need to see, I believe in holistic everything. Holistic health, holistic lifestyle, holistic astrology. We astrologers, and when we're giving readings, tend to focus on certain parts of the chart, of course, depending on what the client is asking about. But ultimately, it's reading the entire chart. I wouldn't go to a doctor who said to me, "Oh, you got a pain over here, take this." Well, wait a minute. What about the rest of my body? How will that medicine affect my body? More to the point, is the problem in that part of the body based on another part of it? And unfortunately, Western medicine doesn't usually think that way. As I like to say, I do medical astrology classes. In Western medicine, you got a doctor for your left foot and you got another doctor for your right foot. It's not the way the world works. It's not the way the body works. It's not the way finances work too. You're going to, like I said before, you may cut a paper towel in half to save an eighth of a cent and then go buy a $70,000 car. That's complexity of the personality.
So how can we make it less complex if we're trying to like understand ourselves? What are some starting or jumping off places where we can like look at our chart and see, like you cover this like at length in the webinar, but what are some like very quick things that we can start doing like right now to start narrowing all of these complexities down?
One of the things that I did spend a lot of time on in the webinar was the different house cusps. We tend to look at an astrology chart as the second house is money. Same way that we say the sixth house is health. Well, when you're doing a medical astrology read, the entire chart is your body, not just the sixth house. The sixth house will tell you a good deal about your attitude towards your health. But if there's a medical problem in the body, you have to look at the entire chart. So when I look at the way somebody approaches their finances, yes, we look at the second house, because that tells us our attitude towards money and very often how we earn the money. But the opposite house, the eighth house, has to do with other people's resources and has to do with things held jointly together. You may handle your own money great. And while you're making money, they're pissing it away.
Right.
And what you need to do is be conscious of that. I told somebody recently that I thought he needed a partner because his eighth house was strong and the second house was weaker.
Mm.
And by having the right kind of partner, of course, I think he could grow much quicker. We also have other money houses in the chart, which I go into more depth. The fifth house is the house of gambling, but gambling isn't just playing horses. Gambling is how well you handle the money that you've made trading. And the opposite, and it's the house of day trading. It's the house of quick trades.
Right.
The opposite, the 11th house, is the house of long-term positions. Put money in a retirement fund, you take it out 25 years later, and you're happy that you have it because you're older and you could use the money. And it's something that you did throughout your life because your 11th house was strong. Even the sixth house is a house of money because it's the place of work. It's the job. In some ways, I say that it represents the actual paycheck. The money will come in through the second house. But if you get a better job, your paycheck is up. If you have a problem at work and you're not happy going there, your attitude is going to stink and you're not going to do as good a job. But if your sixth house is strong or made stronger, if we didn't believe people could change, we wouldn't be astrologers. We believe people can change, and they do, and our clients do, and they learn. And hopefully they learn from us, but they also learn from their own education and their own.
Would you say then that understanding the houses first is like the most important thing to start narrowing down some of those complex personality traits and how they influence your finances? Or is there any other place that you would start first? If I'm a person who just started reading charts and I just figured out how to like look at my own chart and I want to use that to maybe be better at how I'm handling my money, or even my money situation is not the greatest and I want to improve it. Do you think houses are the best place to start? Or is there any other places in the chart that you would also look at?
In the webinar, I made the point of beginning that segment by saying if you're paying attention to what's happening in the astrology community, or you're on Facebook or whatever, you'll see the great tension and even animosity over house cusps.
Mm.
I am very much a house cusp person. I'm also a sign person. I believe in the signs. Doesn't matter that the stars have moved. That's not what astrology is about. There are many different schools of house cusps. A lot of different house cusps. There are some people who don't believe in it, don't use house cusps at all. Some use whole sign house cusps. Some use equal houses.
Mm-hmm.
I have found in my decades of doing this that the nuances of the personality, of the traits we have, of our talents, are very, very much a matter of the houses.
Right.
I had a friend who was quite young, in his early 30s, I think. Didn't drink, didn't do drugs. All of a sudden, he started to have trouble with his liver. And his sixth house, based on the birth time that he had given me, was very late Scorpio. I rectified his chart and made Sagittarius, which rules the liver, the ruler of the sixth house. and it has proven completely accurate ever since.
Cool.
So I don't believe in equal houses or no houses or whole sign houses, because then you don't have all of the nuances. I personally prefer the Koch house system over the Placidus. Those are the two most common in Western astrology at the moment.
And how do transits factor into that? Because as planets are transiting, they're also going to hit those house cusps and enter and leave those houses. And especially when we're talking about like right now, the banking situation and like these big financial sort of world events.
Well, Joe, you've worked on most of my videos that I've done lately, and you know that I look at historic astrological financial issues, and I've pointed out dozens of times when a planet changes signs and a particular market goes crazy. Oil is a perfect example. When Pluto, which rules oil, went into Sagittarius while trading, I predicted that oil was going to go to $100 a barrel. It was trading $17 a barrel. Oh, they laughed at me. I was doing a series of lectures at the Princeton Club. Well, the next year, oil was trading about $35 a barrel. Room was filled. The year after that, it was trading in the high 50s. You couldn't get a seat. Now, when it went to $160 a barrel, my reputation was made. And within a week of when it left expansive Sagittarius and went into restrictive Capricorn, it went from $140 a barrel to $40. And this happens all the time. So what's creating this banking problem? Well, as I said in this last webinar, Saturn rules housing and banks. Saturn has been in Aquarius for the last 2.5 years. And banks have been on a tear. They've been riled up and all over the place. And housing also. Within a matter of, 2 weeks of Saturn entering weakened Pisces. And I don't mean that in a personality trait or anything. Pisces are wonderful people. But it is not a great financial placement sometimes. We had 2 banks fail.
Sorry to interrupt, but why would you say that is? Like the Pisces situation, why isn't Pisces the best financial placement? Why can it be weakened?
Well, first of all, one of the things that I also mentioned in the webinar, that the number of billionaires in the world, largest number of billionaires are Libras. The second largest number of billionaires are Pisces.
Oh, wow.
It's not a matter of particular sign per se. It's a matter of how well the person uses the energy. Neptune and Pisces are very intuitive. You want to be a great trader, you need good intuition. It's not just a matter of numbers. You have to sense, cotton's going to go up. Why? Well, I don't know. There's a lot of bad weather down south. India's having problems, whatever it is. You put it all together. Now, in 2005, 2004 and 5, I was predicting the top of the housing market because Saturn, which rules housing, was traveling through Cancer. Cancer rules the inside of the house. Saturn rules the outside of the house and the land that it sits on. Is polarities, oppositions. And I said, when Saturn leaves Cancer and enters Leo and begins its opposition to Neptune, ruler Pisces, we're going to have a collapse in the housing market like you never saw before. And that's what led to the crash of 2008. Now I see Saturn going into Pisces, ruled by Neptune. And I expected the same thing. Right. And sure enough, the housing market looks very weak at the moment. And look what's happening in banks. And it's not just the regional banks here. Swiss Credit is a well-established bank that has been in trouble, or Credit Suisse, has been in trouble for a decade. They're not well run. And they're collapsing. So it's not just America. It's worldwide.
Mhm.
The two banks that have collapsed in America were both deregulated. So I want to get into cryptocurrency here for a minute.
Yeah.
The crash of '08 almost put us into another Great Depression. It was a worldwide problem because American banks had become very deregulated. They could do whatever they wanted to. So they would give you a mortgage on a $750,000 house when you made $30,000 a year. You couldn't pay that mortgage. Then they took those mortgages, packaged them as what they called securities, and sold them. Well, when the bottom fell out, Spain, Portugal, Greece, Ireland, Iceland, all held enormous numbers of our securities, our mortgage securities, and they all were on the verge of bankruptcy. So after that crash, regulations were put back into the banking industry. A few years ago, they were deregulated one more time. And the administration that did that because that's what they believed in. They didn't want regulations, so they deregulated it. And then interest rates stayed at almost 1%. So these banks, which were regional banks, were handing out money to startup companies based on that low interest rate. This is an oversimplification, of course, Joe. I mean, there are the financiers and the feds, the rest are still trying to figure out what happened. But one of the big issues was that when interest rates rose because of inflation, they wanted to keep inflation down. So they pushed interest rates up, hoping that would settle down the American economy. They rose up to, the 2-year bond was paying almost 5% just a month ago, less than a month ago. And these banks couldn't pay what they owed. They didn't have enough cash on hand. So they collapsed. Now, the administration today has decided to bail them out, and that's fine as far as it goes. If this domino continues to fall, then we're going to have a big problem. We're going to have a problem. Go ahead.
No, I was going to ask, and you said this was last time Saturn was in Pisces, or what?
No.
What was the transit again?
Last time Saturn opposed Neptune, ruler of Pisces.
Oh, right. Mm-hmm.
Remember, don't separate the planet from the sign, even from the house. They're all connected.
Right. And I wonder, and I think that's also a question that I see in our comments whenever we talk about financial astrology a lot, is that, let's say we have this Saturn opposite Neptune happening in the sky, and then an event like this happens. I go to my chart and I look at it, and this is happening in like my 11th house, or my 5th house, or my 2nd house, or 8th house, one of those money houses that you talked about. Can that show you the people that can benefit from an event like that happening?
Absolutely. Or prevent catastrophe.
Right.
When I have to make a big decision in my life, obviously I look at my charts. It's what I do. And the interpretation of what I see may be clear, it may not be. I have a lot of friends who are astrologers. Once in a while, I'll ask their opinion. It's not what I do like I did when I was much younger, of course. But I'll listen, and I have a couple of astrology friends who actually watch my chart, and so they'll send me, hey, you got blah, blah, blah. If I have to make a big expenditure, I look at my money houses to see where it was. Another example that I brought up in the webinar. I have two friends. One has the ruler of his 8th house on the ascendant. And literally throughout his life, people have come up and handed him money. I have a couple of extremely, extremely wealthy clients who have Saturn, Neptune aspects. When I went over the charts of the famous financiers in this last webinar, I pointed out how very often Saturn is an aspect to Neptune. Because if you use the Neptune intuition and you lay a foundation, Saturn, upon which that intuition can work, you can do anything. If you don't use that energy properly, then you can screw the whole thing up. And a good example of that is Bankman, I think his name is, who collapsed that crypto, FXT or FTX. And his chart shows that if he had handled it properly, he has, I believe, a Saturn-Mars conjunct. Had he done it slow and steady, could have been a billionaire. But he didn't do it that. He decided to do it fast and furious, and all fell out, collapsed.
Right. And that's one of the things that you're also going to be teaching people in the webinar, how to look at, like, especially like the Saturn and Pisces transit, and help people spot in what house it's happening in their chart and how they can start interpreting that. But one of the questions that I have right now, like, and a lot of people in the audience also have, is what is the best way to deal with the Saturn and Pisces transit, regardless of what house is falling under for you? Because we're talking about the whole banking situation, and you said that it's probably like the Saturn and Pisces is probably a big piece of that. So how can people use that information to, I guess, gain a little bit of sense of ease and clarity as to how to move forward for the next 2.5 years? Because this is such a long transit, right?
Right. This is a very, very powerful transit. First of all, Joe, this isn't 2008. We do not see weakness in the bigger banks. They are still regulated, and they have enough cash on hand to deal with, up to a point, anything. It's smaller regional banks that more of them may collapse before this is done. And that's a warning sign. Remember, don't we use astrology? Don't we use transits? Or you see a transit beginning and something happens in your life and you say, that's Uranus entering my third house. That's Saturn squaring my moon. That's whatever it is. And if you deal with it before it becomes a problem, it doesn't become a problem.
Right.
Again, if I didn't believe we could do that, I would have quit astrology a long time ago. So you have Saturn entering Pisces. What does that say? Weakness in housing, weakness in banking, but maybe a heightened sense of instinct, spirituality. Saturn is not known as a spiritual planet, but any planet can be spiritual.
Right.
What Saturn does is it forces you to pay attention to reality. The stronger your reality, the more you can get accomplished. That's Saturn. Saturn's your best friend. It's a taskmaster. It doesn't hand you goodies. I think the two most misunderstood planets in astrology, to a large extent, are Jupiter and Saturn. Astrologers are taught Jupiter gives you everything and Saturn takes it away. I have not found that to be true at all. Jupiter will give you more. You're having a problem, got a health issue, Jupiter comes along, you might get a lot worse. Jupiter is also one of the most prominent planets in death charts. Death is the long journey and higher education. Jupiter rules long journeys and higher education. Saturn comes along. Oh my God, I got to work every day and I can't believe it. This just stinks. I'm so tired and I wish to God, blah, 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 blah. And when the work is done, you get a bonus. Then you say, oh my God, I can go to Italy now. I've been wanting to do that my whole life. Saturn will give you that. Now, Jupiter will also give you goodies. Don't get me wrong. I love my Jupiter transits when they come along. Oh, great. All kinds of stuff happens and you get opportunities. But if you take that opportunity and you expand it too quickly, then you're juggling 12 things at once. And when the Jupiter leaves, they will fall to the ground and you got nothing. Saturn doesn't do that. So with Saturn entering Pisces, well, here's a couple of things that I've noticed through history. When Saturn went to Pisces last time, we had a very, very mild hurricane season for 2 years. Saturn's restrictive. Neptune is water. When there are some astrologers who are now predicting there's going to be another pandemic because Saturn's in Neptune, I think it's just the opposite. While we always have a shot at a pandemic because we live in a polluted world. I mean, there's so many bacteria and viruses and molds and blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
I think what Saturn in Pisces is going to do is finally put COVID in its place. Whether it's through more vaccines or whatever it is, and whatever your politics are, whatever you believe, I don't care. But what we need to do is get past this period. This has been 3 years, which is about how long the 1918 influenza epidemic lasted. And it was followed by a 2-year depression. 1920 to 1922 was a depression in Europe and America. After that, the Roaring Twenties started. And for an example of what, how people use or misuse energy, the Roaring Twenties, the markets ran crazy until the bubble popped. So I'm going into this Saturn in Pisces period, also looking at how some of the things in our culture are becoming more conservative, religion and things like that. They seem to be a bit more conservative. Well, Saturn's a conservative sign, and Neptune rules religion. Well, actually, Jupiter rules religion. Neptune rules faith, which is why in ancient astrology, Jupiter was given rulership of Neptune. I look at them as different. You can be religious and not very spiritual. You can be very spiritual and not very religious. It doesn't matter how you define it. But we need to reestablish our faith. I believe that's one of the problems in our culture. People have lost a lot of faith. They've lost faith in everything, in the government, in each other, in the parties, fighting back and forth, and all kinds of things. And we are facing a period of difficulty worldwide, war with Ukraine, our deal with China, North Korea is shooting off rockets. It's an unsure time. And our faith is being tested. And wherever Saturn goes, that's what it does. It tests you. Because it wants you to make the right choice. And so we are entering a period of tremendous testing of faith. If we can work through it, I think we come out into potentially a new golden age. When Saturn goes into Aries, whenever any planet goes into Aries, it's a new year. Jupiter just entered Aries. And historically, that's usually very bullish for the markets. Because it's going to happen every time. You have to see what the other planets are doing too. You have to look at the whole picture, not just one. But
and that was actually one of the questions that people had about the Jupiter and Aries situation and this whole banking thing, and your thoughts about that. Because I remember in the first webinar and a little bit in the second one too, you addressed that, like the quick recoveries of Jupiter going into Aries and things like that. Would you say that that's still a possibility, or you're not so sure about that anymore?
Well, first of all, again, add them up. Saturn was in Aquarius 2.5 years. Aquarius rules technological things and tech stocks. Tech stocks got creamed over the last 2 years. Tesla lost 63% of its value. Google, somewhere around the same. Meta, Facebook. Now, as Saturn is leaving Aquarius and Jupiter's entering Aries, tech stocks are rallying big time. Does that mean we're in a bull market? Not yet.
Mhm.
Also, yesterday, the stocks opened up down around 350 points or so. It closed up over 300 points.
Oh, wow.
You see reversals like that. And this is with the banking problems going on. Everybody's frightened, so they take their money out of the markets. Then they say, wait a minute. Everybody's putting money into these banks, and they start investing again. Remember, the stock market doesn't run on reality. It runs on psychology.
Right.
You think it's going to go up, you buy it. Think it's going to go down, you run. And we are in this major shift with Pluto now joining into the party, about to enter Aquarius. Well, what's been happening? Remember, these issues often start before the planet makes its ingress into the next sign. They start to tiptoe along. Oil has been insane over the last 2 years. In 2020, oil went to zero. It went to actually below zero, technically. And it cost more money for the oil companies to hold their oil than it was worth. They were telling people, take it. Well, that didn't last long. Had you bought it there, you would have made a fortune. And oil ran up over $100 a barrel. I don't remember exactly where. Now, oil is around $60 a barrel. It's below the break-even point. We're going to see more of that because Pluto, which rules oil, is going into Aquarius, the most erratic of signs. And so, following all of this is what I'm trying to do with these webinars. Give everybody a blueprint, so to speak, of what the planets mean. I don't expect people who are not astrologers to follow all the planets. That's why we have astrologers. And as we go through the learning process, there is method in my madness, as they say. And the reason why I brought up certain things in the first webinar, now I'm doing in the second one, and then a couple of months with the third one, is to build the knowledge. And then if somebody goes back at the end of, let's say, the first four, and they follow them in order, they'll say, oh, I see what he did here. Here's the markets. Here's the individuals. Here's the way the two correlate together. Here's what we look at, blah, blah, blah. And in each of them, I'm always going to analyze where I think the markets are and where they're going to go, because that's what people want from me. They want to know, most of my clients call me up and say, well, what's going to happen with the banks? What's going to happen with the stock market? So I'm going to give them as much of that information as I think is pertinent. And always do an update, just like I did in the second. I did an update, but I had these other topics in mind. So I think, I don't remember what order we did again at the moment, but I think we started with a bit of a stock update, and then we went into individual charts and things like that.
Yeah, that's correct.
And I think that's probably how I'm always going to do it is, well, here's the markets today, and here's what they looked like, 2 years ago, and this is what we can expect. Now, let's talk about another topic.
Mm-hmm.
And they add more and more information so that people can, and other astrologers can learn from it and help their clients make some decisions.
Right.
You got to be careful, of course. If you know the financial market's great. If you don't, probably shouldn't do financial astrology for clients. But studying it and learning more about it is the only way to do it. I'm a reader.
And that's what it seems like the answer to the question is. Like, if we were asking how to navigate this whole banking situation, it's really about just learning and studying and paying attention to everything that's going on. Like, having the astrology, of course, is awesome, because then you can even add a little bit of foresight into that and start playing ahead and really look into the future and the whole cycle, really, and not just focus on the right now and in this moment and the fear and the anxiety that might come up, but it seems like there's no easy answer to what is your personality and how you should navigate this whole issue. Like the answer really will change from person to person, you think? Yeah.
It changes from person to person, but also remember, if you buy a stock, about 80% of the time, that stock will go up or down based on whether the S&Ps are going up or down.
Mhm.
There are issues that are bigger than us worldwide. And while I do believe, and I do this for many of my clients, I tell them the best way for them to trade. And sometimes I may, they'll ask me to look at a stock and I'll give them an opinion. But I'm not going to trade their accounts for them. That's what I want to do. But I want to teach them the best way that they can analyze. So it is a matter of learning your own chart as well as you can. Right now, because of where we are at, we are not in a bull market. We are still teetering on the edge of a potential recession. We don't know what's going to happen, but even if there is a recession, it doesn't look to me like it's going to be a very deep one.
Right.
And the Feds, because of these banks collapsing, see, this is the unknown and how exciting it is. Nobody expected these banks to collapse. The Feds are raising interest rates, raising, making people crazy. They're trying to quell inflation. So they're raising the interest rates, which means that, yes, when you go to the supermarket, it still costs you more money than it did a year or two ago. But now it costs you more money to pay off your credit cards that you're using at the supermarket. And everybody expected the Feds to continue to raise rates. Now it looks like they may slow down because it's collapsed. If they do that, the stocks are going to rally like crazy.
Yeah. And it's also, I think, about being aware of the possibilities. And I think of that's really at the core of what the teaching of this all is. Even looking at your chart from like a financial lens, it's all about figuring out what might be on the table. It's not this thing will definitely happen. It just gives you like a framework of different things that could happen, so you can have like a better framework to plan around. I think that's really like the gift of astrology in moments like these.
I absolutely agree, but I think it's astrology all the time.
100%.
Stuff might come up. You do what you can to prepare for it.
But yeah, so for anyone who does want to like really dive deep into this, because we covered how astrology can help you here, but by the end of this podcast, you're not going to know how to go to your chart, look at it, and put everything that we just talked about into context. So if you do want to do that, I think the quarter 2 video just came out today. So if you sign up today, you're going to get instant access to it. And there's part 1, like we were talking about. Part 1 is more of the forecast for the next quarter. And part 2 really will dive deep into charts. So we can start looking at charts, look at the charts of a couple famous people as well. So you have a little bit of a few examples of how these things work. And yeah, if you want to do that, the link to do it is astrologyhub.com/Q2. Just the letter Q and the number 2. So again, it's astrologyhub.com/Q2. And Mitch, is there anything else that you want to talk about in regards to the webinar, or anything else about the Saturn ingress into Pisces, or even the banking situation right now? Or do you feel like we've covered all the most pressing things?
I'll talk forever. I never run out of words. No, I think we've covered pretty much what we need to prepare people for the webinar. They really should watch the webinar so they get more of the information. And of course, ask questions. However you do it, put it under the webinar. I'll get to them. It's just going to be an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
as we want to do it. And we're going to open up the financial world more and more in each webinar. I think we may even delve a little bit more into the houses. Yes, financially, because that's the program we're working on.
Nice. So I guess the moral of the story is that Saturn in Pisces is probably to blame for some of the stuff going on, but it's not the end of the world. Like, we're all gonna be fine in the end.
It's not the end of the world. And I really don't think, that as long as people keep their sense, there's an old saying, common sense is not that common.
Hmm.
People keep their sense about themselves. When inflation hit and everybody got hysterical, oh my God, it's the end of the world. And I did a webinar that Amanda discovered. And so, you guys put it up on your platform. A lot of people came to me and said, oh, I feel so much better. I said, it's not going to end tomorrow. It's it's going to take a little time, but it's not the end of the world.
We're good. It's all good. All right, Mitch, this was awesome. With that, I think that this is bye-bye for now, right?
Great talking to you, Joe, as always.
Great talking to you too. All right, guys, I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.